guys, this is Ciro Nioli. I am the executive producer of Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you are listening to the Master of One podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Master of One podcast, the podcast that only takes partial responsibility for what you're about to hear. Part 1 this week, we talk about Penny Press, Kaiju Turtles, Gand Outdoors, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm Andrew, your Master of Art and Design.
I'm Patrick, your Master of Television and Film.
And I'm Luke, your Master of Toys and Games.
So prepare your mind and heart for the wondrous treasures you're about to take in.
I don't know what even to think.
Every week we like to kick off the show by going around the table, which is where we talk about something new, fun, and noteworthy about our weeks. Patrick, you seem like you've had a great week. Why don't you start us off?
Oh, guys, y'all have no idea in that it has not been a great week, but it is what it is. We all get to go through those. So, I've had a lot of...
Vodka.
No.
Whiskey.
I haven't had any of those.
Filled underwears.
Yeah, that's what I've had a lot of. Well, no, I was going to say, there hasn't been a lot of, social, pop culture, things like that happening lately. But what
as stated by the fact that you have added no new artwork to the wall behind you.
That's just because I can't afford the frames. Frames are ridiculous. I mean, but that's not the point. But I've been thinking a lot about other things on the work side and clients. Thinking a lot about communication on this side. And, I have a kind of unformed thought that I want to take a minute to share. And then after that, I'll just turn it over to you guys. But, there is something to back this up. I didn't have time to pull everything up today. And I'll try to follow it up with links in the show notes. But there's this idea that when you talk to people, you're actually sharing huge amounts of data. I mean, if you were to actually... put it into, try to map this out and actually transfer it in computer terms, you'd be talking about, terabits of data that you're communicating. And so because you're picking up on other things, it's not just audio cues. Like you hear the words, but there's facial expressions, there's hand movements, there's tones and inflection and
semitones.
All these type of things. Yeah, that you're processing very quickly and you're making decisions about the conversation, about the person, about the topic. Just you're always doing that. Well, when you move away from verbal, in-person communication, let's say we move to a video call like we are now, we've now compressed our signal, right? Now we have to deal with some form of latency. We have to deal with the fact that we can't see someone's entire body. They may not have pants on. Well, but no, we have to deal with the fact that we can't see all of their expression now, or their expression is delayed to some degree, and maybe that the full range of tones we have to speak with, some of that gets lost. And then we continue. Now we move to actual a real-time messaging system. Well, now we've cut out the audible part completely. We've cut out all the facial expressions. Depending on what you're using, you may not even, if we're sending a text, we can't even italicize something. And the point is to say that as we...
That's true. I never even thought about that.
So as we move down, we can...
WWDC, you can do italics now.
Okay, not everybody yet. Wait till November. And then, but you keep moving down. So the point is you're constantly compressing the amount of information you can send to literally you go from, I can send terabytes a second to 8 kilobytes. You know what I'm saying? So just this idea of how much is getting lost. So if you're a person that works with clients, if you're a person that... communication is very important in what you do in constant communication. Let me strongly urge you to not do it solely by email or solely by Slack or solely by text because you'll miss it. There'll be miscommunication. It's no wonder it happens. And, frankly, you should be surprised it doesn't happen more often. Yes, I'm totally fine with having a paper trail, but take time to make notes separately. And actually have a conversation with someone, minimum voice. Best case scenario, have it in person. But there's just so much to be said for the relational equity that is built and what that does in always kind of having the right framing and context and something and always being restating expectations, but also building that relationship in a more personable way is also going to potentially give you grace with your clients if something goes late or a vendor doesn't deliver or, you get sick and you can't work on it for a couple days. So that's the thing. I wanted to encourage that. Do either of y'all have any thoughts about that?
Oh, I've got several thoughts. First thought is this seems like it's coming from a very real place for you. We won't get into that right now, but it seems like that could be the source of this conversation. But it's absolutely true for us. I mean, how often does our conversation on text turn into like a secondary conversation are you mad?
Oh,
Or
that's daily.
Someone calls somebody else and they're just like, hey, I couldn't tell. It seemed like you were mad about this. And it's just like 7 times out of 10, it's like, no, I wasn't mad at all, And it's totally just how you read the text, and we each read it all with our own inflection. And sometimes you'll think that I said something that was offensive to Luke, and Luke won't even find it offensive to himself. But you'll be angry on his
say
behalf.
That to Luke?
Yeah, exactly.
Patrick has my back, though. I appreciate that.
That was a hypothetical scenario that's literally never happened. But I'm just saying. But that stuff happens all the time. So absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's
yes, absolutely that. But also just be aware of your negative bias when you read something. It is incredibly easy, email, text, Slack, whatever, to read something and feel this person's upset, this person's angry, this person's attacking me. And the reality is, if you just read it in like a happy tone, it probably wouldn't be that at all. So I would just encourage you, the next time you read something where you get the sense that someone's upset at you, force yourself to reframe it and purposely read it in a happy tone and see if it still reads the same way. Because
if they wrote it with punctuation, read it in punctuation.
Sure. But just try not to assume a negative bias, but I would argue that is what we typically do. So
unless it's your spouse, and in which case you're probably safe to assume it's negative.
Yeah, you definitely did something wrong. So so that's all. So that's an encouragement. Just
sounds like
treat your communication very seriously.
It sounds like a public service announcement is really what it is.
Look for opportunities to be a human. Well, how about I do give you a public service announcement? So there is a very exciting event coming up in October, and it's an event we were
Patrick's bar mitzvah.
You're gonna
finally becoming a man. So this is October 19th.
Baby face is going away.
Literally, I just got the baby face this week. This is October 19th through 21st.
That's just for us, everybody.
I know, it's just for us. In Costa Mesa, California, but it's Reimagine Conference. This is the conference we were at last year. We did hot seats from, met some incredible people. It is a very intimate setting. I mean, if you've been to something like Creative South or Weapons of Mass Creation or something like that, this is not nearly as large, but that's by design. The point is that it's very close to one-on-one instruction. It's instruction in small groups, but what you do is you get one-on-one time with people when they aren't talking. So you end up consistently like going out in the evening or hanging out sitting at your table with other speakers. And again, very intimate talks. And the talks are they cover more than technical aspects. So it's not just, how do I set up an artboard and how do I'm saying words I don't know right now. And how do I... pen
You're
stuff.
Pitching this like
how do I pen stuff?
Yeah, how do I
pen
stuff? How do I
my tool?
Art?
How do I make art happen on these pages?
Certainly, you will learn how to make art happen. But you also get, I think last year it kicked off everything with a talk about copyright law. And but then you also get a lot of stuff that's like self-growth, like seeing yourself positively and understanding your worth as a person and how do you actually establish what your dreams are and work towards them. So I would say it's less about one aspect and more about the whole person just being a better person. And but it's a room with creatives. So already some amazing speakers lined up. Some people you'll know from the community would be Jared Mariyama, Lenny Terenzi. I'm sure you know Mike Jones, Big Mike that runs Creative South. Noah Elias, of course, will be there. And then some other people. We talked to Brandon Elrod last year at the event. Peter Del Tondo, that's his neck of the woods. We spoke to him last year. It just didn't make an episode, Peter. And then Eric, the only one that I don't know is Eric L., who is a animator, and he's a supervisor at Pixar Animation Studio. So that's who's been announced so far. We have an idea of other people in the work, but that are almost confirmed. But expect that list to pretty close to double before it's said and done. So anyway, information's at reimagineconference.com. Again, it's in October.
And we'll be there too.
We will absolutely listen. We're going to be there in a big way. So without saying anything yet. You won't miss us. You won't miss us.
Yeah.
So tickets are $350.
We're wearing neon.
Yeah, tickets are $350 right now. That price is going to go up. So just go and buy the ticket. $350 in the span of what this is going to do for your life is nothing. Buy a ticket before A, they run out, or B, they jack up the price. So, that's it. That is my public service announcement. So, Andrew, please take over.
Sure. So this week, a couple of things have happened. One, I've continued to progress my game with Zelda. I got the Master Sword this week, so I'm pretty excited about that. I've learned that taking my time with it has been actually really, really good. Like the stuff that I've built up, I've got a plethora of things, so that now when I encounter new elements of the game, like I'm super prepared for it. So that's good. Anyway. Just going back to when we were making fun of me. I say we because we were all part of that.
Because everyone else has already finished the game.
Yes, everyone else has already. But you know what? I haven't yet experienced the pleasure of beating the game. That's all gone.
I don't have a Switch and I finished it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's been happening. I went and saw Captain Underpants this week with Cooper when he got out of school. And it was pretty fun. I mean, it was mostly fart and toilet humor. The main bad guy's name is Professor Poopy Pants, and the guy, but the cast in that film is like insanely good. It's Kevin Hart, it's Ed Helms, it's Thomas Middleditch. Those are like the three main characters, and then oh my gosh, I'm blanking on some of the other guys. What's the guy from The League? Anyway, I can't remember. But the cast is insane. The voice actors on this are insane. So I would go see it if you have a kid. If you don't, maybe wait for it to come out, because otherwise it's just weird if you're an adult going to see a kid movie. Just wait until you can get it on iTunes. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Patrick, what did you say that it was?
Arms? Did you talk about arms?
Arms, that's it, yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm glad I told you before we started, because I knew I was going to forget. So Arms, speaking of the Nintendo Switch, the global test punch for Arms is a new game that's coming out in a few weeks, and they did 2 weekends of global test punch, which is where you get to download certain elements of the game and play. It's a beta, essentially, but they only open it at certain times, and it's all online play, and so we were able to do that the last 2 weekends, and man, that game is so much fun. It's not... It doesn't revolutionize the gaming world by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have a fun take on the fight game. Essentially, it's these characters, and we'll do a full review of it when it actually comes out. But it's essentially these characters with extendable arms, kind of like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but like Gadget. The new version of it. Go Gadget arms, yeah, essentially. And the way you use the Joy-Cons determines where the punch goes. So like you can punch, but then let's say the person moves, you can turn your punch because your arms are so long. You can turn your punch mid punch to aim at the guy. It's cool. I won't give any more on it now, other than to say I can't wait for the game. It's going to be great, and I'm going to get the neon yellow Joy-Cons that they don't come with the game, but that are designed to go with the game. So anyway, I'm enjoying the Nintendo Switch. For anyone out there who still wants one, Patrick said they have a ton of them in Chattanooga. So just hit him up and he'll buy one for you.
Send me $500 and you'll get one in the next year.
Yep. So anyway, that's been my week, and I'm gonna hand it over to Luke.
Okay. You know what? My week is pretty simple. Just been doing some random stuff around the house. It was Milo's birthday on Saturday.
Was that you being excited? So you went, we.
Yeah, we. It was Milo's birthday and he turned 7. So we took him to Columbus and he wanted to go shopping because that's what he loves to do. So we took him to a bunch of stores and just got to hang out and have fun. And then my parents got him a box of Pokemon cards. So he opened a whole booster box. It was like 36 packs, and he was going crazy with that. And then Rachel's parents got the boys because Jonas's birthday is on next Monday. So they got them both a trampoline. And so now we have
nice.
a trampoline. I grew up with a trampoline in the house. My dad, I don't know where. In the
house?
Well, you know what? At our house, we had a trampoline.
Okay.
We had 30-foot ceilings.
Yeah. It was a weird house, but it was fine. We had an Olympic size one, like a big rectangular trampoline. So like I was, I don't know, 7 when I knew how to do like backflips and front flips and crazy stuff like that. And now it's fun, trying to teach the boys like how to jump, and they're trying to do
how to super bounce yourself.
Yeah, and how to do flips, but they're getting ready to like do a flip, and they're bouncing up and down, and then right when they go to flip, they don't bounce for that last time, and so they're just doing a somersault. So it's fun to like try and teach them all of that stuff that my dad taught me. So that was like a cool dad moment.
Is it a full-sized one, or is it like a kid?
No, it's a kid. It's a round one. It's bigger. It's 14 foot, so it's bigger than like the normal kid round ones.
It's just one of those small ones you use in the dunk competition.
Yeah, it's just like enough for one person, and I stand on it and it's on the ground. But yeah, so this week it's pretty chill, gearing up for the next birthday. Jonas turns 10, so I have a kid in double digits, which is crazy to me. But you'll hear more about that next week.
Does that mean, is that preteen? Or is that not until like 12?
Yeah, technically. I guess Milo's still preteen.
Anything prior to 13 is preteen.
I thought like double digits, but not 13 was preteen. Or
11 and 12 is preteen, like a tween.
Right. He's just
he's excited
right
about
now.
it.
That's all he is.
Oh, so 10 is he's okay. Gotcha.
He's like I'm not a kid, but I'm not quite a teenager. So he's just kind of that. Ugh. The other thing, I played this game. I played this game called Star Realms, and it's a deck building game. And you have like 4 different factions. It's all in space, and you get ships and bases, and it's really fun. I don't know. I'm addicted to deck building games right now. I like Dominion and Smash Up and stuff like that.
You said it's called Star Realm?
Star Realms, yeah.
Okay.
But they have one called Hero Realms, which is that same idea, deck building, but it's based on like fantasy heroes, and that should be coming soon. So look for a review shortly.
Okay, cool.
That's it. Take it away. I'm done.
All right, well, that's it then for the Around the Table, which means it's time for the Master Categories. The Master Categories each week is when we get to talk about the tokens we drew the week before, and that's what gives us our categories randomly. We pick our topics based on those categories. Now you're up to speed. Let's talk about them. Luke, you finish us off. Why don't you take us into this one?
All right. This one is nothing. I don't know. We might get into some discussion on this. It's just something that came across the Slack this morning.
You have what?
I have art and design. So I'm going to talk about Gander Mountain announced, I don't know, as earlier this week. Their CEO tweeted out a logo contest. So their Gander Outdoors is becoming, what is it? What's their new name?
Gander Mountain is becoming Gander Outdoors.
That's right. So they're trying to get a new logo, and so they said, "We're going bankrupt. So how do we save money? Let's just have everybody else do it for us."
I don't think this is exactly right, but keep going.
I think it is. I think Gander Mountain is going away. That's why they're changing the name.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say they don't want to spend money. But
there's a $100,000 grand prize at stake.
I mean, compared to what a
$99,000 more dollars.
Right. But compared to what a normal logo mark and all that work is,
I think $200,000. Now maybe someone's out there like I wouldn't do it less for $450. But I think $200,000 will get a pretty large company some rebrand.
Anyway, fine.
They're at least going through a rebrand. Whether or not they're going bankrupt, I think that's still up for debate.
Okay. They are going bankrupt, but keep going.
They are.
No, they're closing literally almost a fifth of their stores. They're closing the one that's down the road from me. But keep going, Luke. You got it.
And you're the booming metropolis of Chattanooga.
We need a logo. So give us what you can. As you read through the rules, a few things pop out, such as everything that is created and submitted becomes property of Gander Outdoor.
Whether you're selected or not.
Whether you're selected or not, you can't display that on your personal website. Let's see here. What are some other gems, Patrick?
You can't display it anywhere except when you make the social post alerting them to it, because you have to share it socially. Otherwise, you can't display it anywhere.
You can't do it twice.
Right.
You do it the one time. You're only allowed to do it in that one post.
Yeah. I think they don't even guarantee they'll pay out all the prizes if they don't have enough people enter.
They don't. That's exactly everywhere where they list it as the potential winner.
Mm-hmm. So I mean it just
but hang on. So on that note, one of the things that stuck out to me in it was they are allowed because now this is their property. You have relinquished any and all rights to this at all.
Right.
They are allowed to take that logo and modify it for themselves, which means, here's what this means. They don't have to pay you. You don't have to win for you to give them a good idea and then them execute that idea.
Right. That's why they say potential winners. Because they can take a submission, rework it to something that's not quite that, and then say, well, this is what we created.
Yeah.
And it's at the sole discretion, like only one guy picks, which I mean, it's, well, finish your thought and then I'll give my thought because I have a thought.
No, it's just, it feels like a company that's way out of touch with what the norm is in this industry. It just feels like maybe
like an outdoor company.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like it feels like, I don't know how to say it. It just.
I think people get what you're saying. I mean, because most of the people listening to this are in this industry, and they understand. I mean, it's totally okay. Patrick, you kind of got first dibs on saying your thoughts, and then I'll say mine.
Okay, and I hear the whole no spec work, and I am not taking a strong stand one way or the other, which I know already means 50% of our listeners turn it off. But I like to believe that at times there's a kind of a time and place for everything. Now, in speaking of this specifically, not of spec work, but in speaking of this specifically, considering how many people tend to take large established brands, use collateral, and then rebrand it because they, for their portfolio. You see people redo Spotify and the iTunes Store and Adobe Product Suite, and you see that all the time. And it's because they want to use something that they have a lot to pull from, that's very established and well-known, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
It's usually passion-driven because it's a product they love.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I use iTunes all the time. I get frustrated at these things. Let me design it the way I would design it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are doing that with a company like Gander Outdoors...
Gandor.
Well,
it sounds like one of the characters from Luke's Dungeons and Dragons. Gandor.
If you are doing that with Gander Outdoors for your portfolio, and maybe someone was going to shoot you a check for anywhere from $1,000 to $100,000 because they dug it, but otherwise it was just yours to use in your portfolio and to show off to people because you were passionate about it. I am all for that. I don't see a problem with that. If you don't like it, don't do it. But I think there's plenty of people that would do it just because they want to put something in their portfolio. There's a bit of an added incentive of maybe they get some money for it, but otherwise it's good practice. They didn't really lose
anything.
Except
that they don't get to put it in their portfolio.
That's the reason I hate this. That's because it's a couple things. Number one, this isn't about disrespecting artists, and it's not about not paying the money. Because if you're ponying up $200,000, you are paying the money. I it's just social. That they just want social shares because one of the stipulations is you have to post it to your social network. If you look at the amount of click-throughs, I guess CPM is the actual number. The amount of click-throughs that you're going to get from this many people sharing artwork, this many people attempting it, that's what they're paying for. They're just paying for click-throughs. And instead of buying Facebook ads or buying Instagram, I don't know that you can buy Instagram ads. Instead of just buying...
So it's essentially a $200,000 media buy.
That's all it is. That's exactly what it is.
So they're not paying for logo creation.
The problem is they're dicking over a bunch of artists in the process. So that's the thing that bothers me. Like, you do your media buy and still let people actually use it as a portfolio piece. And then if you like it, show them some respect and send them some money. But otherwise, just like let them do what they would do. But the fact that they keep it all, you can't post it anywhere other than your initial social post.
And they are not going to recognize you. It says specifically in the rules, you will not be recognized as being the one who created this. They won't even do like a, hey, we did this big promotional thing.
Congratulations to Bob Smith.
Yeah,
Frankly,
Bob designed this amazing logo. We can't wait to unveil it at blah, blah, blah. They're not going to even do that.
I don't think they're paying for a $200,000 logo. They're paying for a $200,000 social campaign.
Yeah,
and they're just not crafting the campaign.
And it's just laziness.
I have to assume this isn't a good assumption. I would think it's very possible somewhere like Gand Outdoors does have in-house designers. So I would hate to be in their shoes knowing that your company is subbing out, the company that you work for and are arguably passionate about is subbing out something as important as brand. That might be a bit offensive, especially considering the position they're in. But that's like a whole nother topic, and that's just guessing. Anyway, that's generally my thoughts about it. So, Andrew, do you have something else?
So, from this perspective, that would be considered spec work because you'd be speculating.
Got him.
Yeah, that's good. No, I think we've said all that needs to be said about it. It's one of those things where I look at the work that's being submitted to it, and if you're listen. Here's my disclaimer.
Listen.
I haven't seen all of the things that have been submitted. Okay, but about 99% of the things that I've seen submitted, and I looked like last week or whatever, and so I haven't seen anything new. But most of what's being submitted is absolute garbage. And what I'm seeing is people jumping on this, and I don't think they've read the actual terms and agreement of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think they've jumped on this, and I think there are a ton of people presently, and if you're listening to this and you submitted,
good on you.
I'm sure yours is fantastic and it's great and fine. But I'm guessing there are a ton of people who are in breach of contract already because they didn't read through the very, very rigid terms and agreement.
And maybe that's what they're counting on, so they don't have to pay out that money.
Right.
I don't know.
Potential. Keywords potential.
And frankly, just from a business perspective, and I think, if you only have $100 to spend for a logo, then just, give it to your nephew to do it. But,
can I say this though?
Yeah,
before you say that final thought, just to tag on to what I just said, there are a couple that are actually really good.
No, there's
a couple that I think are that are like, oh, that's really smart and clever.
But
I'm sad that there's a chance that will get wasted. Like you can't even use that. Like you can't even tell anybody you did that, but it's super smart. Like it's really clever design.
Is that wasted though? Because if you win, you get $100,000.
I mean, yeah, but you don't. Yeah,
that's true. But I'll save my last piece because it is some more speculation as well. So I'm going to save it. I think that's good.
It'll be just for patrons later because
because we'll never air it.
Well, no, the idea that as a business owner, and this isn't thought out at all, but you're not exactly encouraging partnership in your brand, and you're not encouraging someone to understand who you are and like the goals of your business beyond just making something that's pretty or has a hook. Now, maybe that's fine. Maybe I think we could probably do an entire episode about how valuable it actually is for someone to have a deeper level of understanding about your company and your company goals. Because certainly there are a lot of But anyway.
Yeah, because I want to know if that was part of it. Like, I want to know if that was... I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who's listening, I don't think they gave a whatever. I don't think they gave a... What's the word I'm looking for? I'm totally blanking. I don't think they gave
a creative brief.
Yeah, a project brief. Yeah, a creative brief on it. I think they were just like, hey, we're switching to Gander Outdoor. We want a new logo. And I think you're right. I mean, I think they're assuming that people understand who they are as a company as opposed to just...
They probably don't care. I think it's a social buy. But
now, it does say that you can submit it in digital format and either email it or post it to your Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter timeline. So you can just email it directly if you want to.
Right, but you can never post it though.
I mean, I would think, I think if you email it, you're saying that literally no one will ever see it ever.
Right, except the CEO. But yeah, it was, I saw it, I read about it, I was a little late on it, but it just hit me as
I think
really
there's a way
lazy
it
and stupid.
Could be done better.
Yeah.
But this was terrible.
And if you want to do it, great. Like I said, you still get paid for it, and if you're grinding out and trying to do this freelance, $100,000 is a lot of money. But if you're established and that's like your normal price, then maybe
how many
it's not
frozen
worth it.
burritos will $100,000 buy?
Dysentery.
About 100,000.
That's true. They're 98 cents a piece. Do it again.
But that's all I want. I'll just bring it up and let's keep the conversation going on Slack. I want to hear more of what everybody thinks about it. I'll throw it to Andrew.
Yeah, so this week I had toys and games, and I'm going to actually bring one of each. Something that I got in the mail a couple of weeks ago that I was excited to talk about, was waiting for this category, and then the other is a new game that I picked up. So let me start with the thing that I got in the mail a couple of weeks ago. So New York Comic-Con was several months ago at this point, and they did a release, and I saw like little bits and pieces of it. Wasn't sure where to pick it up, or if it even was like a mass-produced thing that you could pick up. I initially saw it on Ciro Neely, the producer, executive producer of and director of the new Ninja Turtles, the Nickelodeon version. And he posted this picture of these Kaiju Ninja Turtles. And I remember seeing it going, well, those are really unique and they're really weird. They're probably just a one-off or just like some kind of obscure thing. Well, turns out they had a release, and it was Toy Tokyo, released at New York Comic-Con, and they are officially licensed Kaiju Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles, and they did the 4 turtles. So they were incredibly expensive. So I broke my... So here's the thing. So
can I ask how much incredibly expensive is?
No, I mean, yes, but I'll tell you later. So here's the deal. I, for the first time, I think ever, broke my collector's mentality with Ninja Turtles, and I only got one. And I'm actually glad I only got one because of a couple reasons. So
can we guess to see who's closest to what you got?
Later, not right now.
No,
yeah.
I mean your what figure?
Oh, sure. I mean, Patrick saw it already, but
yeah, I've already seen it.
Well, never mind.
Okay, do you want me to get? I guess Leonardo.
Never mind.
Yes, Patrick, you got it.
Leo the
Leonardo.
leader.
You guys are a-holes.
So,
for caring and wanting to know what my friend's up to at all times. No,
yeah, I don't.
I mean, the flip side of that is you don't ask me what I'm up to at all times. So
I can guess.
Okay.
I've seen your face. Everyone knows what you're doing.
Awesome.
So I picked up Leonardo. I'm going to show it to you. I'm glad I only got one for a couple of reasons. One is the quality isn't quite where I want it to be, but 2, it's massive, and I didn't read the full description before I bought it. Here is my Kaiju Leonardo.
It's 18 inches.
Wow.
It's almost 2 feet tall. So you looked it up. Congratulations. I wish that's what I paid for it.
Can I?
Okay. Go for what? You want to describe it? Like,
no,
what's the?
I just my knee-jerk reaction. You continue talking about it, and I'll tell you after.
Sure. Okay.
You don't like it.
Well,
Just say you don't like it.
It's hideous.
Yeah, so Chandra shares that sentiment with you, by the way. So it's what you would think of when you think of a Kaiju Ninja Turtle. So Kaiju, Japanese for monster, I believe, something thereof. And this is a monsterized Ninja Turtle, but it's also very Japanese in its production. So metallic colors.
It looks kind of like
airbrushed.
Sofubi kind of like style.
Yeah, it looks like a Sofubi, but it's not. I wish it were Sofubi.
Well, yeah.
Sofubi being like the high end vinyl.
Yeah.
It's actually hard plastic.
It looks like they let a 4-year-old spray paint it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more refined than that, but sure. If you wanna give kind of a quick overview of it, but it's got all sorts of metallic colors on it. It's very not what you would expect when you think of a Ninja Turtle.
So wait, is it Sofubi? That's how you say it.
Sofubi.
That material is that a style or just a material?
It's a material.
Because I equate it to a material, but I don't know if it also has a style typically attached to it.
It is a style and a material. There is like...
Yeah, it's a way of describing the way they make the toy.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a thin high-end vinyl.
So that's what I'm saying. It's misleading because honestly, to me, it feels cheaper. Like I don't like the feel of Sofubi, and
it's lighter.
Yeah, because I've held all the Frank Kozik figures, at least the newer ones, are all Sofubi, and I'm not a fan of it. But I've been told it's better, or at least more exclusive, or expensive, or whatever.
Yeah, the higher end stuff.
Here's the thing: I like the rendering. Like the kind of like razor sharp teeth, the expression. Yep.
It's got reptilic eyes.
Yes, exactly. Like I think the rendering is great, and maybe it is Skype. It is so hard to get on board with that paint job.
The paint job is terrible. Like
it could be that I see it in person and I feel better. I don't know.
I agree with the sculpt. Like the sculpt is a cool idea, a cool take on the character. That paint job is just ridiculous.
So here's if I hadn't paid for it what I paid for it, I would maybe be inclined to paint it. Because I'm not a super huge fan of the paint job. Although here's what I love about it. It's and then we'll move on. Well, actually, I have one more thing about it, and then we'll move on. But it's very unique. Like it will stand out in a collection. It's gonna. I mean, it doesn't.
Well, yeah, it's 7 times the size of anything else in your collection.
Exactly. Chandra can get on board, but even if she doesn't like me spending money on things that she doesn't get, this was the one thing she's like, I hate that. She's like, because the first day I got it, it was just sitting in our living room, and she was just like,
nope,
no, like I don't want that. But here's a beautiful thing about it: the packaging. So the packaging is massive. I'm gonna try to pick it up and still talk. Shoot, I just knocked a whole bunch of stuff off, but that's fine. Look how big this box is. So it's massive.
That looks way better than what was inside of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Why didn't they paint it like that?
Yeah.
Look at the design on there. Isn't that so? There's like this pattern design that they put on the side of the box.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I would say 40% of your price is in the package design.
I would say maybe display the box and not the figure.
So if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, I think one of these should live on your shelf. I'm gonna actually say that because it's very, very unique, and it actually is officially licensed.
I want to see what the other ones look like.
I picked this one because I think the colors were actually the best out of all of them.
And by the way, this is in the show notes. So if you're listening, like scratching your head, like what are they talking about? Go to the show notes. I have it in there as I almost said Toy Story Kaiju, the Toy Tokyo Kaiju Leonardo. You'll see it in the show notes. Click on it and look at it. And don't get me wrong, this is totally some people's style. Like some people are going to see this, they're going to go nuts for it, they're going to love it. I choose to believe that if I saw it in person, I would have more positive feelings about it.
Yeah, I love it. I actually love it.
And I would say you should paint it. The more you pay for something and then to also be willing to then paint over it, that's a power move. That is status to say I sunk a lot of money in it and now I'm going to deface it immediately.
Well, then here's what I'll do then. I'll send it to Luke and I'll have Luke paint it for me.
Once he finishes that other toy painting he's doing.
Because I don't trust myself with it. But this actually might even look cool just painted like jet black.
I like the RAF. I don't like the paint job. I still think it's bad. But I like the RAF.
Only if you have an accent color for the bandana, the pupils, and the sword. And like the belt.
Yeah. So here's my biggest beef with it. It's a hard plastic, so when you try to put the weapons in their hand, it can crack the plastic, or it can crack the vinyl. And they sent us an email about it. And so I put one sword in this hand, and it started to do it in between the fingers right here. So I stopped, and I'm not putting the other weapon in his hand. I was just gonna sit down next to it. So if you get one of these,
lame.
I know, just be aware. And it's not articulated at all. It's just
The arms don't move?
No, bro. It's just this. What you see.
They sent you an email that says you can't even put the weapons in the hands because you'll break it.
No, they said just be careful
But
putting
you
the
already
weapons in the hands.
saw yours already start cracking.
Yeah, when I was trying to put the sword down into his hand.
It started.
So, anyway, what I think a smarter thing for me to do is if I had a hot torch, like when you have that hot gun, Luke, I would heat up his hand, put the sword down in, and then let it cool.
Sure.
That would be a smart way to do it.
You can just heat it up until it's like a big pile of molten vinyl, and then shape it into something better.
That's also an idea.
It'll be a really metallic, multicolored puddle, and then you could just hang that up. Maybe put like one of those clockworks in it. It'd be a cool clock. Yeah.
That's a power move.
Actually, you probably could put a clock right here on his chest plate.
Yeah.
And just make it a clock.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shander will never hear this episode because she'll be like, "You spent that money on that, and you don't. You're gonna put a clock in it." My other thing is this, and I'm gonna make this quick because that took longer than I anticipated. But I got a new game, and it's called Penny Press.
Okay.
And I'm going to start off by saying I think what you will say, Luke, is that this is a lot like the TV networks, game networks or whatever. Okay? Because I have I've still not played networks, but I believe this game style is very similar to it. So this is called Penny Press. Mm-hmm. It takes place, the theming of this game is that you are a news baron. Mm-hmm. In turn of the century New York City,
like Newsies,
and you are trying to get and you're trying to get a newspaper, have the highest circulation, to have the way you do that is have the best stories, and get the most listener or the most readers and things.
So it is the networks. It's like lo-fi.
Yeah, it's turn of the century New York version of that, and it's newspapers instead of TV. So, look at the artwork on it. First of all,
I like it.
It's beautiful. It's just great. It's the colors very much fit that time period. The box is amazing because instead of it having like all of the details like on the back, like the necessary evils of a board game, which is like the number of players and all the rules, and shows you all the pieces that are in the game, and like all that stuff that can kind of clutter up the back of a game. They're very helpful information, but it clutters things up. Look at the back of this one. It is just the back of a newspaper stack, and when you look at the, I'm not holding it up the right way, but
I see it.
Okay, but when you have the cover on, it literally looks like a stack of newspapers bound with twine, and so it's really cool. The board itself is massive. It takes up a lot of space, and then you get these pennies for bringing your front page to press, and you can go to press. Each player, it's 2 to 5 players. Each player gets a different newspaper. So there's the Times, there's the Herald, there's the World, there's the Journal, and this represents your
Harold, the Herald.
Yeah, it's just some guy named Harold, and he starts his newspaper. But this is your front page, and you have to build your front page with stories, and you get these different stories. They look like this. They're varying different sizes, so it's like different column sizes and widths, and there are different story
your layout.
Story
you have to
beats.
build your layout.
Right, you have to build your layout based on news beats, and news beats get there's a point value assigned to each one, and it continues to go up, and you get bonuses, and it's actually very involved when you're first learning out how to do it. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense at first. It took reading the rules like 2 times through and then having them sit next to me while we played it the first time. But it makes a ton of sense after you've played it, and it's very, very fun. It takes about an hour to play if there's 2 people. I could imagine about 45 minutes to play if there's 2 people. I could imagine taking an hour to an hour and a half if you have all 5.
Yeah.
But man, you get advertisements, and advertisements have to go in certain places, and it messes up your layout. So these are little advertisements right here, and you sometimes have to work around that advertisement, and sometimes that breaks up what stories you're able to put there. And for any stories you aren't able to bring to press, they count as negative against you. So there's a ton of rules to it. It's actually pretty involved, but it's very, very fun. You talked about the papes. There are meeples that go along with this. You assign reporters to different news beats and things. It's very, very fun. So anyway, this has my full endorsement. Great, great game. I suggest if you're the person who's going to kind of bring this to people, be patient with them as they ask questions. But once you get the game going, it makes a ton of sense, and it's very fun. And honestly, anybody can pick it up and win it. Like there's strategy involved, but then there's also some luck. So anyway, I would highly recommend it. All right, Patrick, take us home. This is you.
Hello. This is Patrick. You're listening to the Master One podcast, and today I am talking about TV and film. Finally, so I did not see Wonder Woman. It's getting great reviews.
I can't wait to see it, man.
Something about like highest grossing film for a female director of all time, and highest rated DC Universe film, and apparently it's awesome. And I will be.
Let's be honest.
That's like a 66% is all you need to be highest rated in the DC Universe. So that being said, I will see it this weekend. I'm excited to see it this weekend. But I have something else fun I'd like to talk about, and that is my guilty obsession. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So this is a show that's been around since 2005. This is not new by any stretch. And just this past week, they announced that it has been renewed for, gosh, I don't know. It's been renewed for its like 15th season or something like that. Like it continues coming.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, it feels like it's been on forever.
It's been a minute, but it follows the adventures of Dennis and Deandra and their friends Charlie and Mac, and then also Frank being Dennis and Deandra's father. And it's four people, I guess, if you include Frank, 5 people that own a bar, and they really have no problem just like doing anything to themselves or each other. There's kind of like no boundaries in the show. They would gladly, step on the other one if it meant them getting ahead type thing. And it creates these really awesome situations. Total lack of like social awareness or really any type of moral compass at all. And it's a lot of fun to watch. But what I did not know, and this is why this is being brought in, is that the pilot for the show was filmed with basically zero money. They were asked to attach a value to it, so they attached the value of $200. But several of them have said in interviews it's actually probably less than that because they shot everything on handheld camcorders they already had at like their own apartment or just live on the street. As far as for like setup shots, and so the only expense was film, and then just the time they spent. That was it. And it was the original cast. I mean, it was still Mac and Dennis and Charlie and Deandra in the pilot. I think the only person they added on after the fact would have been Frank. And I want to say that, and Frank being played by Danny DeVito, and I think, now this is where I don't know, so let me just go and get this wrong. I want to say he wasn't brought in until season 2. Timeline doesn't matter. The point I want to make is that at the time that this was made, so that Rob, who plays Mac in the show, Rob is the one who created this show, and it was him and Glenn Howerton, and that being the guy that plays Dennis. So Dennis and Mac are the 2 people that are really the creators. Mac, the primary driver. They wanted to work with Charlie Day, who plays Charlie Kelly in the show. And so they brought him in, they wrote the script, and they came up with the premise, just something that they thought would be funny for the pilot. And it's there's different pieces of it. But one of the primary pieces was this idea that a guy tells his friend that he just found out he might have cancer. And his friend's response, instead of being there to like talk to him, is to try to get out of the situation as quick as possible. And so it's him trying to like leave this situation because it makes him uncomfortable, even though his friend just found out he might have cancer. And it's just played amazingly well. And it ends up getting picked up. I mean, ultimately got picked up and now it's run for 15 seasons. And the point to all of it is, if you want to do something, just go out and do it. Right? I mean, like literally, they followed none of the rules to making a show. They talked about when it came time to actually shoot, like after their piece that they shot, and they actually got picked up to do a fully produced pilot. They talked about, they were being asked these questions about, okay, but how do you expect to actually? So they do things that aren't typical. Like they actually do live audio. They set up all their cameras and shoot a lot of the scenes in one take, just using 4 different camera angles, which means they're also lighting for 4 different camera angles at the same time. All this stuff not being typical.
That would be the most difficult thing, right?
Sure. And their response to how do you expect to do that, to manage that? Because that's not really typical. Their response to all that was, what's lighting? And it's this idea that they didn't have knowledge. And they see it as a positive, as they didn't have a barrier between them and creating something. They didn't have this attitude, well, it has to be this quality or don't do it. They didn't have this attitude of you have to use this equipment or don't even waste your time. They took what they found to be a funny concept, something that they related to. The idea, again, Rob, his idea was that he thought this would be something fun to just show his friends, and all his friends would get a laugh out of it. And they went and they took a day and they produced it for no money other than buying some tape. And then that was picked up and it became It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And now this show that is now run for, I think we're going on 15 seasons. So yeah, it's an incredible story. So in the show notes, I've put, it's a 15-minute kind of mini documentary that shows pieces of the pilot or I should say kind of like the initial concept they shot, but then also the first pilot. And it goes a little bit more depth about, that process behind it. But I just, that story really resonates with me. And I hope that people listening, that you connect with it. Because there's really, especially in the day we live in, technology being as rampant as it is, the fact that you can produce, whether it's an artwork or website or music or whatever, sitting at your computer you already have, spending only your time and not actually any physical resources, and then you can put that on the internet and have the potential to ultimately reach millions of people without having like a go-between as an agent or a producer or whatever. We live in a magical time for creators, and the only thing that's standing between you and whatever that dream is just doing the thing. That's it, just doing it. So yeah.
Truth.
I don't recommend the show if you get easily offended, because you will definitely get easily offended. If you don't get easily offended, you still may get offended. So just be careful watching the show.
Does the show have a lot of like running like stuff where you need to watch from the beginning to kind of catch up?
Yeah, I mean,
so
absolutely.
that's why I never started watching, because it was like I was like 8 seasons in before I kind of even heard about it, and I was like, oh, it's so much to catch up on.
I mean, like Arrested Development, though, in the writing, not in the writing style, but in the brand of humor that it is, I think it's something you invest in. If you invest in it, you love it. Yeah.
But it was just one of those things. Like, oh, I should watch that, and I saw how many seasons it was, and I was like, oh, I just can't. But I might have to start.
Oh, okay. So I guess we're in season 12 now. So maybe it got picked up, maybe it got renewed for 13 and 14 is what happened. But yeah, there are. I mean, but it's kind of like watching The Office. We're going back through my wife is going through The Office for the first time right now, Mackenzie. And those episodes are only like 22 minutes long. So, if you binge a couple hours in the evening, you can get through a chunk of a season. I would say it's a similar thing to that. Like you can go through it. I mean, I'm probably my 3rd or 4th time going through Always Sunny.
Who's your favorite character?
You know what? It's hard to not like It's really tough. So I love just the frenetic energy that is Charlie Day, who in the show is Charlie. I think Mac is like lovable in a really dumb way. Honestly, I think Mac might be my favorite character.
Okay.
But the thing is, they all just play so well together. Like I think the guy I'm most impressed by is probably Danny DeVito. I mean, he is in his early 70s. I think he's 72 years old now. And the stuff he does and puts himself through on the show is nuts. He told the story not too long ago. In last season, there's an episode called The Gang Goes to Hell. And in the episode, they're like on a cruise ship and something happens. And at some part in the episode, you see them all like standing underwater. And Charlie Kelly tells a story that like Danny DeVito is like really buoyant, so they had to like weigh him down to like get the shot where they're all underwater. So the problem is they finished doing the shot and they all kind of rise to the surface, but Danny only came like halfway up and then just stopped. And he said you could just see the panic set in. He was like stuck. And so of course they had safety divers and they pulled him up. But he said at that point he went home for the day. He was like, thanks for finally almost killing me. So he might be, but I love his perspective on it. And again, go watch some interviews because there's over the course of this many years, there's tons of like late show interviews and things to watch. But I love his perspective on, like every breath is one breath closer to your last one. And this idea that this show is his outlet to have fun and to have excitement and do crazy things and like live it up. I mean, because again, he's in his early 70s, but he still very much sees this as an opportunity to like have life, in the biggest sense. And I think that's a really cool perspective because it would be easy to, again, it's easy based on the style of humor and things like that to really just classify the show as, it's garbage. I'm not going to watch that. But they actually do a really good job at tackling like very complex, like whether they're political or hot button issues, and really showing both sides. I think it's very surprising the way they're able to handle it. And it manages to somehow be very like ultra inspiring in moments, unless they revolve around Rickety Cricket, in which case it's always just terribly depressing. But no, I actually really like the show, but I find it very interesting. $200 in a dream. That's all it takes, guys. That's all it takes.
Sweet.
Well, in that note,
can I borrow $200?
I'm broke.
I'll give you the dream.
I have my own dreams.
You can find all of this on mf1podcast.com with show notes and links to everything. And you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. Are there other places?
Sure.
Yeah.
Those are the places.
Actually,
there are other places?
Pocket
why not?
Casts, that's one.
Okay, cool. There's other places. So just search it wherever podcasts are sold, and that's where we're at. And then when you do that, rate and review the show. What?
We're there or
What
we're
did you
not. We're not going to say we're there if we're not. So there's disclaimer. We might not be there.
Oh, I see. Here's
Here's what I love. Luke can say whatever weirdness he wants to say because ultimately he can just cut himself out.
I don't ever do that.
I have a constant fear of saying something stupid. Luke doesn't care. He doesn't have to.
And yet you keep talking. It's so
what
strange.
he's saying, Luke, is that what you just said was stupid.
I don't care.
I don't want that to get lost.
I don't care.
Anyway,
we have a new review. We have a new review.
Right. So when you review the show, we get to read your review on the air, and we love doing that. So, Patrick, take it away.
So we actually have a very exciting review to read. Just really couldn't be more excited. So the benefit of rating and reviewing the show is that we will read your reviews on the air, no matter how stupid you make us sound or feel. And this one is titled Bring In Mackenzie. This is 1 star out of 5. Thanks, Guy. And this comes from Mr. Georgia.
Gabe Barletta.
I think it's no, it's Georgia Baby Letta. Anyway,
Gaby Barletta.
This is what he or she says. Okay, who wants to kick it off with the first one?
I'll do that one.
Okay.
And then Luke, you got
I'll take
Christopher
2.
Walken,
Sure,
right?
yeah. That's fine.
Okay, and then Patrick, I believe you do the best Owen Wilson of all of us.
I would say
so
out
we'll
of
leave that
all
one
of
for
us,
you.
I have the best Owen Wilson,
Okay.
for sure.
All right. So as Jack Nicholson accent, leaving this at a 1 star until you guys being her on the show. That's what you get for mistyping it, Mr. Jared.
Yeah, face.
Barletto. Yeah, in your face. All I want to hear is, here's Mackenzie.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is Mackenzie's interview.
I didn't know he was Russian or Czechoslovakian.
It doesn't matter.
Or
It doesn't
whatever
matter.
just happened.
It doesn't
I
matter.
have got the fever.
All right, Owen
Whoa,
Wilson.
whoa, description.
Whoa. To be honest, oh my god,
Oh, okay.
this is bad. If you guys don't bring Mackenzie onto the show, you have to be. I just don't even know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know it.
Patrick.
Oh gosh.
It's like
You
you
know,
don't know how to read
all-
words.
Patrick, this last part you can read in your own words.
In
You're
your own
right.
voice.
After the hyphen, you can read it by yourself, like as yourself.
What? It's like the most stumped I've felt in my entire life.
I know, you've been rendered completely useless as a human. I'll finish it. How about that? In all seriousness, these guys are great and everyone should subscribe to the show. And then he says he promises to change it to 5 stars once we've all read it or when Mackenzie comes on the show, whichever comes first. Patrick, we want to take the last piece there?
Winky face.
You literally couldn't just say winky face. Oh my
Was
God.
this review helpful? Yes, no, report a
Yes,
concern.
no.
I'm reporting a concern right now because this killed
Yeah,
me.
but I'm reporting a concern. It's Patrick doesn't know how to read right. Okay. So when you do that, it seriously does help us. We have a good time with it on the show, but when you leave a review, when you rate the show, it helps us tremendously. Doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of your time and maybe some of your creativity, and we will read it on the show. Another way that you can
We will
support the
not
show is
reimburse
financially.
creativity.
Another way to support the show is financially by going to patreon.com /M of One podcast. That you can become a patron for as little as $1. You can become a blooper level patron for $5, I believe. And every little bit helps us continue to put out more content and do this. If you want to give us $1,000, we will be fine to take that. So we love what we do, and we like to continue to do more and more. And so you can help us by going to patreon.com /M of One podcast. The Slack community is a great place to be a part of a group of people who is incredibly encouraging, helpful, creative, talented. It's just a great group. Join us on there, mofonepodcast.com /Slack. I think we still have a couple of our artist coloring books left over. If you want to get one of those, just go to mofonepodcast.com. You'll find it. I think we need to get out of this episode, though, before
good.
Patrick. Yeah. But I can promise you this interview on Friday, you're not going to want to miss. It may actually be split into 2. Who knows? We haven't discussed that yet as a team. But it is it's going to be one you want to hear from. So subscribe now so you don't miss it, and be on the lookout on our Instagram to know when it goes live. All right, everybody. It's been a good one. We're going to get out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
Peace out.
Bye.
Hold on to your butts.
Okay. So
Yeah, Luke, thanks.
Gave it some room, Patrick. Just give me a room, some time.
Yeah, you gave it a freaking
Give me some time in the room. Patrick.
20 by 40 vaulted ceiling, vaulted. Blah.
Yeah, so I had the topic of... Okay, sorry.
And I would like to sing it in laughs.
Okay. Yeah, so I had the category of art and design. Nope. I didn't. Okay. This is fine. It's all fine. This is good.
Thanks, Luke. That's what you say when the house is on fire. This is fine. This is fine. This is all good.